If there's any moments of the recording purposes that it takes a little while to change the slide, just bear with it. And same for obviously for the live people who are attending as well. So hopefully we are okay. So if I progress on to the next slide, just the housekeeping that I mentioned, I'd say. So it is being recorded. So anyone who's just joined as well, that's why you've got no camera on and no microphone, just so that it's easier to reuse this project update talk for the purposes of anyone else who wants to find out more about the project, or anyone who couldn't make it tonight as well. I know a couple of people messaged us to say that they weren't going to be able to make it, but they'd love to hear more. So we are recording it for that purpose. And yeah, for anyone else who's just joined, any issues or questions and Q&A at the end, if you can type that into the chat on Teams, I can pick it up that way and answer you. And yeah, it should be about 10 minutes or so for a Q&A at the end, hopefully. Okay. So firstly, I'll introduce the team for obviously anyone who's new to the project or perhaps hasn't engaged with us for a short amount of time. The team has changed a little bit recently. So we've got Alex, who's the Natural Heritage Officer. That's definitely someone who hasn't changed recently. He's been around for a very long time, leading as well in the development of the project. So he's the one who sort of leads the volunteering sessions and leading a lot of the sort of landscape recovery, such as the Lakeview Park stuff that's going on at the minute. Oh, apologies there. I went to click admit and someone else popped in at the same time, so it changed. Okay, so I've let 2 people in. So for those new people, just mentioning that you're muted and the camera's off just because it's being recorded. So any questions or anything, just pop it in the chat. So that's Alex. Helen is our Cultural Heritage Officer, so she leads on the majority of the events, and she's been kind of key to delivering the River Festival, a lot of other sort of regular events that you see as well. We've got Joe, the River Restoration Officer. He's sort of co-leading on a lot of the volunteering, so he does the Guphill Brook sessions and the Whitley sessions, as well as some of the other river restoration that's been happening. We've got Jen, the Education and Training Officer. So she's sort of looking after the 2 trainees, also looking after some of the people, sort of the interactions with the schools and the sort of youth engagement that we've got going on, making sure we're engaging young people with nature and also the project. I heard a little bit of a noise there, so I'm just going to pop out and just quickly check the Teams just to see if there was a message. I know someone has to be admitted, so. Good job, I checked. We'll hop back in. And then obviously we've got myself as well. So I'm the Communications and Interpretation Officer. So I kind of lead on all the stuff that's online, all the digital, hence at the minute as well. And also the interpretation that we're seeing in terms of the sort of the things on site, the murals, the sort of interpretation that's going to be delivered at some of the sites as well. We've got Natalie, who's part-time. She works for the finance and admin, so she helps us all out with all the spreadsheets and all the kind of budget side of things as well, and yeah, is very valuable to the team. We've had Katie and Kai as previous trainees last year, and we're really pleased to say that they both went on to work in the environment sector as well, and we've got this year Sophia and Ari. And they are fantastic as well. So we're really hoping that that'll be the kind of same this year. And if it's anything to lead on from last year, that's definitely going to be the case because they're very good. We've got a new project manager coming in start of next week. And I'm sure she'll introduce herself sort of to people and to the project as and when she's started getting going. But she seems really nice, and she seems also like she's really capable as well. So we're really looking forward to how she's going to be sort of making a big impact on the team going forwards. So that's sort of an introduction to the team. And to kind of talk about the project and how it got started as well. So it's a lottery funded project, but it's also sort of match funded. So it's match funded by a bunch of different organisations around Coventry, which you can kind of see on the screen as well. Darren, if you're in the call, I'm not sure if you are, we need to get a much more high-res version of your photo here as the community rep, who's also the head of our project board. So most of these other organisations that are involved in the sort of match funding of the project and the sort of key to elements of the delivery also have sort of that sit on our project board. So we meet several times a year to kind of make sure the project's on track. So thank you to all those that are kind of really making sure that the project can happen. And the project kicked off in terms of the delivery phase in 2022, and we've got funding until the end of 2026 as it stands at the moment, but that's sort of not final, and we're hoping that perhaps we can sort of expand upon that into the future to make sure that there's a bit of a legacy going forward for looking after the River Sherbourne. So how does this tie into the work of the wider Wildlife Trust? So for Warwickshire Wildlife Trust, but also across the board, across wildlife trusts, there's a few sort of key deliverables which we're looking to do. One of those, which is really key, is called Team Wilder, which is this sort of collaborative movement to encourage people in different communities to actually take action for nature. So the idea is that 1 in 4 people will take action for nature by 2030. So it's kind of part of our real goals as a trust to sort of achieve sort of change for nature, obviously given the ecological crisis, to actually make sure we deliver that. And in order to be able to do that, we need more people acting for nature. So that's kind of where this comes from, and that goes really through the core of what we're doing in terms of the education, and also the sort of the engagement with different projects and engagement with nature as well, and sort of allowing people to learn more and how to kind of feel empowered to actually be able to take action for nature. I heard another little notification, so I'm just going to make sure there's no one else that needs them in. There we go, we've got someone there. Welcome in, Sarah. We're just in the middle of kind of introducing the project. So I just talked about Team Wilder, which is sort of the idea that we want 1 in 4 people acting for nature by 2030, and that's really to kind of make sure that we can inspire the change that we need to see in our ecological systems. And kind of as part of that, what that hopes to achieve in terms of our goals by 2030 is this thing called 30 by 30, which is the idea that 30% of land and sea across the UK will be protected for nature by 2030. So you can obviously tell as a charity and a sort of a federation of trusts, that's not very possible without sort of the participation of the public and the participation of other organisations as well that we've spoken about. So really we kind of need to encourage this more sort of engagement with nature, engagement with ourselves as wildlife trusts, to encourage more action for nature and make sure that there's more space for nature as well, because obviously we're seeing a decline in that. So those two things obviously are key to what the wildlife trusts are delivering and what Warwickshire Wildlife Trust is delivering, and from that they kind of is the birthplace of this project. So the River Sherbourne is very key to Coventry in terms of sort of its location, and also the initial building of the area. So the initial kind of settlements as well, and its history as well, and its historical wealth. So obviously a lot of you are familiar with the Coventry blue and how that comes from the actual dye of the cloths in the river, and sort of the actual minerals within the river itself, which kind of made this really powerful sort of Coventry blue, which really created a lot of wealth for Coventry back in the day. So a lot of the sort of history is really tied in closely to the river. And you can see that through our history as well, and throughout some of the kind of historical areas of Coventry as you explore it. So the project area that we're actually talking about in terms of the Sherbourne Valley includes all these different places. It's quite hard to see on this map. So true to any communications officer, I've asked our good friend Lady Good Diver there, the mascot, to help with a sort of a more easy to look at map. So you can see obviously some of the tributaries there that come in through to feed the River Sherbourne as it flows down through Coventry. And it really flows down through the city centre, and it joins the River Sow here underneath the south sort of the city. So this map kind of shows a couple of the key areas that we interact with as a project. So one of them is Cowden Wedge. We've got Lakeview Park, Sponheim, which is kind of, and the Burges, which are both sort of really historical parts of the city and city centre. Charterhouse Heritage Park, and Whitley and Whitley Abbey Bridge as well is kind of one of the key places within Whitley. So those are some of the kind of key areas that we sort of interact with people, and we host events, and we kind of encourage volunteers to attend as well. And that's sort of the general picture as well of the River Sherbourne as it flows through the city. So what's the goal of the project? What we're trying to achieve? So it's working with those partner organisations, working with local communities and, local individuals as well, down to the individual level to make sure that the River Sherbourne is sort of changed essentially and kind of more loved going forwards, because it's been, prior to the project, a bit unloved and a bit unlooked after, and it's all about changing that and rewriting the sort of history of the river as well. But not only for nature, but also for people as well, because it's really, if people can't engage with nature or sort of participate in nature or sort of have that experience with nature, then without that experience, you don't learn to care about it, and then it's not protected in the long run as well. So it's really about rewriting the future of River Sherbourne for both wildlife and nature and people as well. So to do that, we've got sort of 10 areas and scopes. This is a bit of a sort of potentially outdated image to kind of show that, but I'll briefly touch upon each of them as well. So kind of to actually achieve what we want to do and to achieve the change that we're talking about as a project, we need to deliver it in many, many different ways. So through events, through skills, so obviously engaging people and making sure that they have the sort of the confidence to be able to look after their local spaces, through preserving the structures and the information, the stories as well, through creating wild wetlands, which is obviously very key to climate change as well, and key to sort of aspects of climate change that we see, such as flooding, river restoration, so some of that more key on-site river works and restorations that we talk about, creature count and biodiversity, and making sure that we're recording wildlife and that what we're doing is actually sort of affecting the numbers that we see in terms of wildlife as well, and linking it all together to make sure that people can sort of experience one area and then think, oh, okay, well, I've just been to Cowan Wedge, where else can I go to? Let's go to Lakeview Park. So that's from a people perspective, but also making sure that it's accessible for wildlife as well, so that there's kind of those wildlife corridors. So that's the sort of hands-on delivery, and my role is within communication interpretation is making sure that that's told across the sort of the messages and the trust, and also externally as well, to all you guys, for example, and obviously today. And access is also kind of within that as well. So with all those things that we're doing, it's about making sure that people can access the river and that wildlife can access the river, and also these stories and these ways we're engaging people. And then encompassing all that as well is all the volunteers that we work with as well that really support us. So I mean, traditionally you tend to think of volunteers as very physical and hands-on, which a lot of our volunteers are, and particularly some of the ones that are really key to engaging with the project over and over. But we've got several different volunteers as well that help us out, from volunteers for our mascot, volunteers for our communications as well, and volunteers that go out and record data for us and survey sites and survey the sort of river fly as well, and also sort of sewage outfalls, you name it. That we've got volunteers helping us in so many different ways, and so that kind of encompasses everything. So to kind of narrow that down, make it even more sort of digestible, again, as a sort of comms person, I've had to make an infographic. So this kind of, again, tells the same story, but hopefully in a bit more of a sort of an iconography way, in ways that you can kind of see as a sort of snapshot and screenshot. But within each of those, there's obviously the storytelling elements. Restoring a river just isn't due to kind of down to the water elements. It's kind of talking about cleanups and litter picking and improving the habitats nearby as well, and making sure that this actual natural flood management is sort of key to what we're planning for the actual restoration works as well. For volunteers, it's about making sure that those conservation days, we've got volunteer awards and kind of many, many different training sessions to develop their skills, so that going forwards and into the future, perhaps a sad future where maybe the project isn't around anymore, then there's those people that have been trained as local volunteers can continue that aspect of looking after that local environment. So that's obviously really key to the legacy of the project, but also just ongoing to look after the River Sherbourne. So that's just a really quick whistle-stop look at some of the things we're delivering as a project. So let's kind of dive into the details. So in terms of the river restoration elements, let's kind of explore what we've done so far. So At Cowan Wedge, which is kind of a lovely green space towards the north of Coventry, we, in late 2023, did a stage 0 restoration project there. So stage 0 is quite a new restoration technique that's only been done a couple of different times around the country. And so it's kind of really quite new. But when I come to explain it, it shouldn't be. So the process of stage 0 and what it means is essentially to bring an area back to how it should have been before any human intervention, hence the word stage 0. So kind of we allow nature to completely run its own course and choose its own path, and that is how it should be, and we're not kind of diverting it, which means it's accessible to wildlife, it's fulfilling its functions, it's kind of naturally linked to its own floodplain and all those different things. So it creates huge benefits, and it's been a really, really powerful project. And it's been so nice as well, just on an individual level, to actually see the change that's been created at that site, and really kind of as the river's carved itself through. So how we did it, this is a kind of small map there. So this little yellow on the map here, we infilled one of the channel banks where, sorry, a reason for the actual why we did it is because traditionally the river, this is the North Brook, one of the tributaries to the River Sherbourne, had been diverted to the boundary lines of these farms, but it was really inaccessible to wildlife, and there was culverts and there was a weir, and nothing could migrate upstream, nothing could access it, and it wasn't linked to its floodplain as well. So kind of we really needed to divert it and redirect it in that way. So we did that by infilling the banks there in that sort of little yellow area, and lowering the bank slightly so that it could then connect to its old floodplain. And we knew that that was its old floodplain in that area because we did some LiDAR scanning, and we can actually see some like historical wetland plants as well. So we knew that that was actually where that it flows, and also in some slight flooding or really heavy rainfall scenarios, there was sort of a slight trickle present there as well. So we could definitely see that that was what's called a paleo channel where it used to flow. And then it's directed that way, and it's kind of gone to that sort of new wetland area, sort of where those previous wetland plants were established, and really then flowed down towards the end of the field, where we've kind of then lowered the bank again to allow it to then reconnect to where it was. So it kind of spans across 2 fields, the area where we did the project. And if you visit there now, it's really, really lovely to see. And there's loads of wetland plants thriving, and the areas where you've got the sort of the river visible, it's really nice, and you can kind of actually see and hear the water flowing, which is really lovely to visit. So we've got now 2 bridges there installed, which obviously is important for maintaining access to the area, and obviously the people that currently go through the area. So those are those bridges, and as you can see kind of by bottom left there, that's you know, a few months after perhaps the river had been redirected. So we kind of had to wait a little while obviously to install the bridges to make sure that it set up properly. But you could see there the difference in terms of how much it had started to carve out its own path. That's not the limit of what we've done in that area. We've worked with Ulsley and Cowan Wedge Conservation Society and other volunteers as well to remove the silt traps from the area, which obviously we installed as well as part of the project. And yeah, there's a kind of a nice before and after there as what's been seen as the impact of that. And we have a really good working relationship with Ulsley and Cowan Wedge Conservation Society as well, and they've helped us out with multiple things over the years. So Guphill Brook is another area, then quite another tributary where we've worked with local volunteers. We've got a monthly volunteering session that Joe leads on the Guphill Brook, where we've done multiple things in terms of tackling Himalayan balsam, litter picking, and sort of natural flood management in terms of the river restoration as well. So you can see that on screen as well, some of the volunteers actively managing the area. And we've worked with schools as well, so Wobley School in that area, and we've installed some pinned wood, which serves to then redirect the flow of the river to actually really encourage it to start meandering again. So, and obviously meandering is a natural process, which then means that a river has a diversity of flow and a diversity of areas, which then increases the diversity of habitats, and then increases the diversity of wildlife. So it's not just a sort of same old kind of cut path the entire way through, which most rivers kind of look like nowadays because of the sort of historic human meddling that we did. Jacobean Hotel. So again, we mentioned weirs. So why are weirs bad? They essentially stop the migration of fish upstream, and they take energy out of the river as well. So it kind of affects the energy systems of the water, and also reduces the ability of wildlife to migrate. So by removing the weirs, it also then it enables those things as well. And you can see as well the difference in the clarity of the water as it's cleaned because of the energy systems from the removal of the weir. So that we did one there at Jacobean Hotel as well. And we've got a new volunteering monthly session at Whitley. I think it's the 4th Thursday of each month now. So there's some kind of images there of some of the volunteers removing some blackthorn as well, which was done just the other month. And we've done a lot of other different things in terms of the active in-river works and litter picking as well there. I'm just going to quickly pop back to the team just to make sure no one else needs to come in, and just quickly check the chat in case. Okay, thank you. All's good. Just seems there's a couple of questions which Hans thankfully answers for me, so all's good. Lakeview Park. That might be why quite a few of you potentially are in the call. So there's an active restoration project at Lakeview Park at the moment, which I'm going to go to talk on later. But we've also done some historical restoration works there as well. So we also mitigated a weir there, but it wasn't as easy to do as some of the others because of the access bridge you can see there that's just over the site, so we couldn't actually actively remove it. So we had to instead mitigate it, which means basically that it find a way around. So we did that by installing a riffle structure just downstream, which is kind of a series of large gravel pebbles, which then raised the water level and raised it above the weir so that it kind of then didn't prevent access to migration for fish. And you can see the before and after here. And you can see the sort of riffle structure which we installed, which does keep the nice sort of flowing sound that you get, which a lot of people do love about weirs in terms of the sort of the nice noise that you can hear when you sort of sit next to one. But by installing a riffle structure, we still kept that element as well. We also do regular volunteering work parties there, so twice a month. We do one on Mondays and one on Saturdays. We've also done several riverfly training there as well, and many other different sort of improvements as well to Lakeview Park. So litter picks, sort of large scale removal of things from the river as well. We have a bit of a sort of, we always tend to find trolleys in there, unfortunately. So we often kind of remove 2 to 3 truckloads each time we do a community session to remove litter from the river. Pinned wood we've done there as well, and you can see a nice before and after example there of where the kind of the change in the flow speeds of the river because of a sort of pinned wood, which would be a natural process, for example, as branches and trees fall into a river over time, then obviously create that sort of difference in flow speeds, which then encourages sedimentation and sort of that diversity of habitat that you see that you want to kind of see in a nice river. We've done plenty of balsam bashing. We're going to be doing some more again, obviously, this year. So Himalayan balsam is an invasive species which tends to grow around wetland areas. And it's a really kind of outcompeting a lot of local native species. So it's a real challenge to actually manage that. So we tend to really focus on that during the summer months to tackle the Himalayan balsam, particularly kind of while it's still sprouting up and before it's started seeding, because if you try and kind of remove it after it's started seeded, it's a lot more difficult because you have to kind of bag it over and make sure that you're not actually encouraging spread as well. So in terms of our further events, in terms of what we've been doing, we do City Nature Challenge each year, and that's always the last weekend in April. So this year it's going to be the 25th to the 28th, which is like a 4-day weekend, where we encourage people to engage with nature by wildlife recording. It's a sort of friendly competition. So it was kind of started by California University, and it's made its way international. And last year, Coventry came 10th in the UK, which is really nice in terms of recordings and the amount of species as well that we recorded. So At the time, we were actually recorded slightly over 900 species, but as we refined that over time and verified the records, some of them kind of obviously, unfortunately, we fell to slightly below 900. So we definitely want to get more than 900 this year. But that's a really, really nice weekend of encouraging people to get out in nature and using an app called iNaturalist, which records wildlife. So we're definitely, we've got a lot planned for this year. We've got at least 5 events just through our project between Friday and that Monday, which we're going to be promoting soon as well, that we're going to be doing over that weekend. So you can expect to see that again for anyone who's already engaged with the project. We also last year took part in Wildlife Families Fest, which is a festival that was put on by Warwickshire Wildlife Trust to encourage people to come to Brandon Nature Reserve. A few of our project staff were actually talking to some local people at an event just the other week, and it is unfortunately quite surprising. There's quite a number of people that don't know there's a nature reserve within Coventry. So really trying to encourage people to come along to Brandon Marsh. And obviously, as sort of part of the Warwickshire Wildlife Trust, we attended and sort of promoted our project there as well and supported them. And you can see our project mascot, Lady Good Diver, on the right hand side there is a real big hit with families as well. So it's lovely to encourage young people to engage with nature as well through those. Similarly, we went to Godiva Fest as well last year. You can see the look of fear on my face there, I think, from just how hot of a day it was, and one of us had to kind of turn up as Lady Godiva, the mascot. So I was a bit worried at that point. But no, that was a lovely again to be able to attend that festival and to really start engaging people with nature. You can see there we've got on the table some sound recordings as well as a bit of a sort of sound recording challenge, which people love. And we were doing some wildlife flower bracelets and things like that as well. So kind of having things to take away for people to engage as well with nature. The big one that we do as in terms of events is River Festival. So this year we've got a mostly confirmed date basically for the 20th and the 21st. We've got an Eventbrite up as well at the moment, so I'll be promoting that on socials pretty soon. But yeah, it's on Eventbrite if you want to go look on there as well. And our Eventbrite collection is available on our website as well, so you can see all their events there as well. So that's going to be 20th and 21st this year, which is a weekend long celebration of the project, which includes loads of activities. Obviously, again, our project mascots there again, music, all sorts of different stalls as well to encourage people engaging with nature, activities, things like bee hotel making and poetry workshops, things like that as well. So it's a beautiful weekend and it's free as well for people. So we really encourage people to attend that as well where possible, because it's, yeah, why not go to somewhere for free to have a nice little festival for the weekend. So we're going to be doing that again this year. And it's like to be at Fargo Village again this year as well, for the 20th and 21st of September. So we are in the middle of kind of making sure that all the activities are going to be sort of penned in and penciled in and kind of preparing all that. But we've made a real good head start on this year. So we'll be promoting that a lot quite soon as well. And there's some more photos as well from last year, some of the amazing things happening. So we were drawing a chalk river. We were doing some leaf pressing and things like that as well. And there was some demonstrations as well by Coventry University doing a theatre performance as well. So beautiful weekend. Please come along. So I can talk for a long time about more of our events, but I kind of don't have all day, and I don't want to kind of keep talking your ears off. So just a few more on screen of examples of sort of one-off events that we've done to encourage people to engage with the project in different ways. So poetry walks, audio walks, nature-based activities, which is kind of now a permanent thing that we do with adults at War Memorial Park as well once a month, and amphibian training and things like that as well. Even more pictures, tote bag printing, bushcraft, well-being walks, things like that as well. We do. We also work with the ecology group at Charterhouse as well, and yeah, regular volunteers and things like that as well. There's so many different events that we do. Just check them out on our socials, on our website, on our Eventbrites, things like that. And then, as I mentioned, yeah, woodland wellbeing sessions. So there's 2 more wellbeing sessions that are coming every month as well, coming from now. And I think one of them's at Lakeview Park as well for being set up there as well for people. So here's a few of our upcoming events. As I mentioned, there's one at Lakeview Park, and yeah, the other one will be at Whitley. Ongoing some of those Whitley woodland wellbeing sessions that we did sort of towards the end of last year as well. So that's a bit of a snapshot. So feel free to screenshot your screens to kind of have a look at all the events that are coming up. But all these are on our Eventbrite and on our project website as well. As you can see, there's a lot of community days and volunteering days as well that we do. Twice a month we do the Lakeview Park. Once a month we do the Guphill Brook and the Whitley ones as well. Something we've got coming up, not necessarily events, but you know, just to keep you guys aware in terms of a project update of what's happening. So Jen, our training officer, is going to be setting up a junior ranger scheme. So this is going to be for 11 to 18-year-olds, kind of to start to engage people with nature and start learning that sort of hands-on experience with conservation as well. So some of those, there's a few dates there for the summer term. For when we're going to plan to start engaging with people and setting up this junior ranger scheme. So that's going to be kind of coming this summer. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And obviously you can see on screen there, there's a QR code. So feel free to either screenshot or have a look at that too. But yeah, we're really excited for that because that's really going to make a big impact for education for young people to actually get the practical experience that really otherwise it's quite hard to actually get when you're quite young. So other things we've done, moving on, I suppose this is kind of still events, but in terms of more the interpretation side of things, we did a mural in Guphill with a local mural artist called Michael, who initially painted an otter that was really loved by the local people. So we encouraged loads of local people as well to come back for an event where we actually had the people from the local communities taking part in terms of learning how to create a mural and sort of taking part and actually making an impact of sort of the nice look of their local area as well. So it can kind of be managed as well by the community in terms of every time someone walked past there who actually participated in that event can be nicely thinking to themselves, oh, I went to that and I sort of helped out as well. So that was really lovely. As you can see as well, the image on the bottom right, it's an absolutely beautiful mural as well. So that's underneath the Buckingham Rise Bridge in Guphill. So, well, in Alsley, but on the Guphill Brook. So if you haven't seen that yet, definitely worth a visit. Although make sure you're going when the water levels are okay, because it can, under that bridge, get quite high. I did notice a little noise there, so I'm just going to make sure that no one needs to be permitted in, or no, it's just Helen sharing some nice information about River Festival. Thanks, Helen. Cheers, Helen. So in terms of, yeah, other interpretation of things we've done, so in the lower precinct shopping centre in Coventry City Centre, there's 6 panels of information about the Sherbourne and the sort of history of the river as well. So those are just kind of some image examples, but there's a full, on the side there, you can see a full timeline as well of how the river has changed through the ages, and sort of how the shaping of the river, you know, affected the history of Coventry and the settlement of Coventry as well. So that's a really nice place to go to kind of see and find out more information as well. So next time you're doing some shopping, go to the lower precinct and check that out. So for where that is, it's just underneath the Sherbourne Arcade. So if you're coming in off the main street, you go down and it's to the left. If you're coming from the other direction, obviously it's to the right as well. But it's just sort of that small area. It's kind of maybe 7 foot high, something like that, where yeah, there's 6 panels of that interpretation piece. So that's a really nice one to check out. It's got some sort of local stories and little hints and some kind of historical information as well in there. We last year did an exhibition in the Lytton Tree Building, which showcased some of the scans that we'd done for Coventry's culvert. So we basically did a laser scan of the culvert, and we've recreated that to be able to kind of show it digitally, which shows how the river flows underneath the city centre, because a lot of people aren't entirely aware that it's there either. And yeah, people say, well, there's a river that actually goes underneath Coventry, and so it's really kind of making it accessible to people by showing them that there's actually a river underneath their feet, and the sort of history and what that means as well. Another thing as well, we've obviously got project videos and project films. So there's a Restoring the River Sherbourne project film available on our YouTube and our website at the minute, and then those other videos for the culvert as well are available on there. But we're also in the process of creating a few others as well. So we're working on a flora and fauna film and a history film that are both kind of nearing completion, so they should be with you guys soon. And also a future film as well, which is going to sort of talk about the impact the project's having and the sort of the desires that people have for what they want to see for the future of the river as well. But the filmmaker that we've been working with also had another documentary which featured the River Sherbourne, which is called Atuel. So I think it was sort of middle of summer, like last year, that actually was projected. I can't remember the country now. That's a shame. I think it was Brazil, where it was projected on a local dam, and it was actually, there was no one from Guinness World Book of Records, unfortunately, there, so we can't verify it. But we believe that that was the largest ever projection of a feature film, and obviously the River Sherbourne featured on that, which is a really nice kind of little tick there for Coventry. We've got a project website as well, so anything else that you kind of haven't managed to cover in terms of what we've done as a project, you can find out more information there on the project website. We're also kind of posting a lot about the project news and things on there as well, and project events go on there as well, so you can really use that as a place to find out more information if there's nothing that I've managed to cover so far. So some upcoming things that you can expect going forwards, and things from this year. So we're working on 6 listening stations that are going to be created with local communities. So the exact locations of those are going to be kind of still to be determined, but that's going to be sort of through some delivered workshops where people come together to create art and to also create these soundscapes as well, which are going to be put as listening station posts where people can find out, go to and actually either read or listen to the art, and or look at the art and listen to these sort of listening stations that are going to be created as well. And we want that to be heavily influenced by the local communities in terms of what they want to see. So keep an eye out for those kind of upcoming sessions as well, if you really kind of want to have a sort of lasting impact in terms of physical interpretation, and sort of maybe your 15 minutes of fame on a sort of a local listening station as well. So that's to come. We've also got lots more interpretation to be delivering at some of our key sites. So one of the first sites that's going to be delivered for the interpretation is Cowan Wedge. So you can see a little bit of examples there of sort of how we're mind mapping things and looking to tell the story of the Stage Zero project, which I talked about at the start of the talk. So that's something which we're planning to roll out, I'd say, over the summer. So you can expect to see some interpretation starting to go over there kind of as the summer kind of going in towards the autumn. River ambles. So we're also looking to do 6 trails throughout the Sherbourne Valley. So we kind of categorize them so they're all kind of different, accomplish different things. But some of the ideas are that one would be a digital trail, which again is going to be using that culvert scan in the city centre. So you can actually scan a QR code and see the river beneath your feet. We're going to have trails that showcase the history of the local river and some of the local buildings and structures. Nature-based trail, family-friendly one, accessible one, and obviously make sure that all these 6 are encompassing the key sites as well. So we're working on that at the minute, and probably will be from May or June onwards be starting to deliver about 1 a month to actually do some workshops with the local communities where we showcase what our plans are for the trail, and we kind of do a test walk and things like that, and kind of get your feedback and opinions as well. So those will be kind of, if that's 1 a month, then going on towards the end of the year, where they'll actually be kind of creating resources for along the way, and then probably delivered into maybe next year. But that, in terms of the community events of the start of what we'll see for those to come, that'll be kind of coming May, June or so this year. Activity books as well. So Katie, who was the previous trainee for the project, worked on some activity books for us. So we plan to create 3 activity books. We've created 2 of them already, and we've just got to kind of finalize in terms of the proofing of those and things like that, which are pretty much done. So those should be rolled out pretty soon. And then a 3rd activity book, which will be focused on more activities which you can do anywhere along the river. So the first one, we're going to focus on Charterhouse to be a bit more of a location-based and family-based one, where you can kind of go to a specific site and experience specific things. The second will be a storybook focusing on Lady Gooddiver as well, and sort of telling the story of the project and that we want to see the sort of change for the River Sherbourne. And then, as I mentioned, the 3rd is going to be more of a sort of general activity book that you can take anywhere along the river and sort of have fun with kids as well. So that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour of what's to come and what we've done so far. Hopefully that was really useful for you guys. I mentioned that we're probably going to do a Q&A as well for about 10 minutes towards the end, so I'll probably speed through this, but I anticipate that a lot of maybe the Q&A is going to be around this, so I've kind of left this till last in terms of actually what's happening at the minute. So in October, we did the first phase of our restoration project at Lakeview Park, which was the stuff that's being delivered south of the river. So we did 3 of the really kind of large ponds and a couple of the scrapes as well in the October phase. And we're in the middle of this phase 2 at the minute, which is planned to be about maybe 3-4 weeks overall. We're about 1/3 to halfway through the delivery of that. So we're looking to be on site for maybe 2 to 3 more weeks. Obviously kind of weather providing and things like that, but we're really making some good progress on that so far. So I'll kind of whistle-stop talk about what we're doing there in terms of sort of some of the things we're delivering and why, and then we can go onto the Q&A. So the plan is for what we're actually doing is the elements are all enhancing existing features on the site. So some of the things like the ponds and the scrapes are areas that we already see kind of holding flood water, where we kind of have those regular flooding episodes in the park, which obviously is classified as a flood zone 3, so it's really susceptible to flooding, and hence the name Lakeview. It's very, very flooded usually. So it's enhancing those local features that we see regularly to make them more permanent, and make them more natural as well. So by doing that, we're improving the diversity of the flow speeds and diversity of habitats as well, to kind of make sure that the sort of area is sort of managed as good as possible for wildlife and for people. And it, as a knock-on effect, by installing these sort of wetland and pond and scrape areas, it's going to increase the water storage capacity of the park, which then has a bit of a small knock-on effect to kind of manage natural flood management going downstream as well. I did hear a little noise, so I'm just going to make sure. There we go, we've got someone else coming in. I've just seen a couple of nice things in the chat as well, so thank you for kind of also sending nice messages and good feedback as we're kind of going through as well, so that's really appreciated. So that's a couple of pictures of some of the things that were delivered in October. So you can see that really large sort of pond area. It's technically a pond because of the sort of the size and depth, but a lot of sort of people are kind of fondly calling it a lake, which I'm not going to really kind of correct, because it's called Lakeview Park, and it's quite a nice area, and if they're talking about it fondly, then that's good by me. But that's, yeah, quite a large thing which was delivered in the October phase. But there's a map there of what we're actually delivering overall. So because I'm quite conscious of this time for the Q&A, I'll kind of speed through this, but I have done a few kind of talks about it, and there's a lot of information about this online. So if I am covering it slightly too quickly, if you go to our project news section of our website, you can see loads more detailed information about what we're doing for the restoration at Lakeview Park. So quickly touching on each aspect. So we're doing 4 areas of the channel widening. So this is actually in terms of the directly on the River Sherbourne, which again we talked about, similar with the pinned wood. It's actually encouraging the sort of diversity of the meandering of the river, to encourage the sort of diversity of flow speeds and the sort of different diversity of habitats, which improves the sort of the natural element of the river and how it flows, which kind of is better for its energy systems and better for the wildlife that lives there as well. There's also some riffle structures which we're installing in the sort of wetland area, the sort of existing offshoot. So the kind of river does kind of shoot into two sections at this point before it goes underneath 4 Pounds Avenue. And that's just to sort of, again, create that diversity in flow speed. It helps to clean the gravels, it helps to clean the water as well and oxygenate the river. And it's also ideal for fish breeding as well. So it's kind of creating an extra nice habitat, as well as the sort of diversity in sort of habitat that we're looking for. There's an inset floodplain, which we're kind of in the process of delivering at the minute, which is kind of as the Guphill Brook meets the River Sherbourne there on the map, which encourages a sort of a more diverse sort of area of wet, fertile sort of soil, which also increases kind of how wildlife can access that area and sort of encourage more nutrient-rich sort of soil there to kind of enhance the sort of soil vegetation growth in the area. We're doing 4 ponds, which we've basically done already. So 3 ponds were delivered as part of the first phase, as we mentioned, including that really large one down there. But that provides a more consistent water source. So obviously the sort of periodical flooding that we saw didn't really allow for sort of establishment of species or sort of creation of habitats. So by making them slightly more permanent, it's increasing the water storage and increasing the habitat diversity as well. And another thing that's not to be overlooked as well is just the sort of the element of the public and people engagement with those ponds as well. So for educational activities, for pond dipping and measuring biodiversity, and for those wildlife recording things we talked about, ponds can't be understated as well. And similarly for scrapes, so scrapes are sort of smaller versions of pond which aren't as deep, and they're just a smaller kind of way of just seasonally holding a little bit of water when there's been a flood, and it sort of slows down that access of water going back into the channel as well. So it kind of acts as sort of temporary water storage areas, which again helps be sort of natural flood management too. And these wetland areas, which we talked about, help to filter nutrients. It's extra habitat and extra sort of plant habitat too. It's critical for climate change as well in terms of carbon storage. Wetlands, we know, is one of the best possible sort of habitats for carbon storage as well. And again, sort of similarly creates this sort of dynamic and diverse ecosystem that we're looking for in the park. So that was a whistle-stop tour of Lakeview. Charterhouse, again, I'm quite conscious of time, so I will speed up. But Charterhouse is another restoration project which we're looking to deliver soon. We're only just getting through some of the final permissions of this, but we're looking to deliver it quite soon. I think it's the 10th of March. We're looking to actually start delivery, so it's quite soon. And just to briefly touch upon what we're looking to deliver there. Similarly to what we've seen at Lakeview Park, we're using some berms to encourage this sort of natural flow pattern and natural meandering of the river. Again, sort of creating that diversity in flow speeds. We are doing some gravel recharges, which is, again, what we talked about with those sort of riffles that have been installed. It's helping to oxygenate and clean the water and helping to provide good habitat for fish breeding and things like that. And there's also a sort of an offline pond, an online pond as well, which we're hoping to deliver, which will act as a sort of refuge for fish fry and for new fish as well that are sort of breeding and looking for somewhere to kind of form as a habitat. And again, obviously, we're talking about ponds. We're hoping to put a platform in with that as well, so that can be used for education for sort of local schools and things like that. And also increase water storage as well. So that's a very quick whistle-stop tour of what we're looking to deliver at Charterhouse, but that's coming soon. And obviously, as part of my job, I'm going to be talking and shouting about all the work we're doing as well. So follow us on socials to kind of keep up to date with what we're putting out for our plans for Charterhouse. So I've got even more to talk about. Okay, I need to speed up. I feel like I haven't really had much of a break to have a drink, but I'm trying to really give a full project update here. So if anyone does need to leave early, please do put your questions in the chat. And what I've said as well is that any I don't manage to answer today, I will be because I'm creating a transcript automatically from the Teams call. I will grab any of those questions and form into a bit of a sort of Q&A FAQ sort of part on the project website as well. So I'll put anything out in terms of answers to your questions that I don't manage to get around to answering. So if you've got any, just start putting them in the chat now if you'd like. As a quick whistle stop of how the project is going so far, you can see there's some really good stats in terms of we've had over 1,400 volunteers so far supporting the project, and that's probably totaling about close to 1,500 now, because that was as of October as well last year, and totaling nearly, I mean, we're talking 4,500 hours of time that people are given to really make a huge impact on their local green spaces in the local area to look after this river. So that's something that is huge and really, really important. As a team, we've delivered over 400 activities as well that have been attended by over 15,000 people. So really kind of encouraging the engagement with the river and the River Sherbourne and with our project as well. And over 90% of the people who've attended our events have said that they're learning something new as well. And there's kind of examples on there of kind of what they're saying that their increased understanding and knowledge is of, be it nature, be it Coventry in terms of the history or the sort of wildlife that could be found there. As well as the events that we've done, we've delivered loads of different training sessions. So over 6,000 people participate in those. And as you can see, over 100 different training events as well through education in schools or sort of accredited training for local volunteers and for people looking to kind of establish their skills in terms of managing habitats as well. So amazing numbers there. And similarly, in terms of the before and after of what we're talking to people about, we're seeing some really positive changes in terms of how many more people feel like they're going to take action for nature and feel like they're more connected to nature because of our events and because of our project. So we're really proud of that, with what we're doing and some of the kind of numbers we're seeing from those events. So it's going really good. So fingers crossed that it carries on. So that was the update. I will continue to answer Q&A questions for maybe 5-10 minutes or so. So I'm not going to kind of stop it dead on 7. But if anyone needs to stop or head off soon, feel free. But not without following us, please, first on social medias, because that's my job. So I've got to do it. I've got to tell you too. So there's a few things on there, but we've also got a TikTok and an Instagram as well. So you can find that by just searching at Sherbourne Valley Project for those two as well. But you can find all the links through our website as well for what we're on. Thank you so much, and I'll start going back to the teams now so I can read the chat and start answering some questions. Okay, so I believe I've stopped sharing my screen. It's just me too. So, okay. So we've had a few people complimenting some of the things we've been doing in terms of the activity books and the River Rambles. So that's lovely to hear. Obviously, it's good feedback as well in terms of that they're looking great. We did at the mural event showcase some of the drafts for the activity books as well. So we got some nice feedback from the community on those too. So we'll make sure to roll those out very soon. Okay, any plans to raise awareness of the tributaries? Yeah, so we, as part of the project website, we've got some maps there as well, which we are looking to over the next few months to add to in terms of showcasing what's there, and potentially a nice focus of that would be to focus on specifically the tributaries of the river. Guphill Brook is a tributary and Northbrook is a tributary, which we're working on actively, mostly at the minute, through kind of some of the volunteers and through some of the local conservation groups like Alsing and Wedge Conservation Society. So those are kind of some of the main tributaries we focus on, but there are more out there that we, Radford Brook, for example, that we could be doing a bit more to shout about and kind of tell the story of. So yes, in short, we're kind of looking to do that potentially through maps and through some of the project information that we put out, but always open to ideas of kind of further ways to engage and to kind of talk about and some of these things to talk about with tributaries. Okay. I think that was the only sort of question that's been in the chat so far. So I think in that regard, then it's kind of been timed quite well. If anyone has anything else, do ping it through. What I'm going to do as well is put an email in the chat. I'll put my email in. So if you want to note that down and think of anything after today, then by all means, please go ahead and email me, and then I can put that as part of the thing that I put onto the website next week, where I'll be sort of answering all the questions and things like that as well, and kind of describing the project update. So I'll just put that into the chat. So please feel free to email me if you've got any questions, or if you want to sort of find out more or get any links to anything. If anyone who's still here could, okay, no longer has access to the chat. Okay, that might be because it's now after 7 o'clock, so my speeding didn't quite work well enough, I think, unfortunately. It might be perhaps due to certain policies, for example, with your computers. I'm not entirely sure. So if anyone, there's a few people that can still get into the chat and drop a message. So thank you, Celia. Yeah, so okay, so the chat is still active. So if anyone does have anything else, I'll probably hang around for a minute. If not, yeah, feel free to email that, and I'll drop another email as well for just general information, if you want to inquire ever into the future about the project. Yeah, there's quite a few people who are trying to put things, by the looks of things, that apparently no longer have access to the chat, unfortunately. So apologies for that. Again, you can see my email there, so please feel free to email, and I can send a direct response, and also I'll put the sort of information on a sort of FAQ as well on the website, so I'll be putting that out there soon. Thank you, Karen. Glad to hear my it's always slightly strange from an individual point of view to talk to a TV screen for an hour without hearing anything back, so it's nice to hear that it was really informative, so thank you for that. So sorry for not being able to hear my email, so I'll just say it out loud. Yeah, so it's Jordan.Davis, so that's JORDAN .DAVIES at wkwt.org.uk. So I might need to say that a bit slower, perhaps, or did you manage to get that, Helen? Oh, thank you. Got it. Right. Thank you, Debbie. So for Rob and for Henry, who haven't managed to be able to get their access to the chat, and Edmund and Gail as well, apologies for that. Please feel free to drop me an email if you've got any questions, and I'll do my best to answer them as soon as possible. Okay. Right, I think it might be starting to time people out of the chat, probably because of the settings I put on for the no microphone and camera. So apologies if that's affected you, but thank you all, and hopefully you either have learned a lot more about the project and what we're doing and what's upcoming, or if you're quite new, hopefully you might consider engaging with the project, because many of the things we do and events we put on in terms of training and things like that are all free as well. So it's a really great way to sort of learn to be able to engage with nature and local communities, and start to feel like you can protect your local environment as well. So please do engage with the project if you've not done so yet. If not, I'm just glad that you've been here today and to learn a bit more, and you'll consider at least telling other people. Thank you, Celia. Right, I won't ramble for too long. Obviously, I've got river rambles to make as the 6 trails, so I'll keep my rambling for that. And yeah, I'll see you guys hopefully as part of the project, as you're engaging maybe. If not, thank you for attending. Thank you. Bye.